Welcome to Rugby Uncovered. I'm Paul Rodriguez, joined with Tom Nash, and we've got Vivian Bahlmann on the line. She plays rugby in Germany, and we're very keen to hear all about how she got involved with rugby in Germany. Welcome to the show.
Hello, nice to meet you too. I'm glad to be here to join your show.
This is the very first video podcast that we've done, so you're the first. We're also celebrating that. We're also celebrating that you've just had a birthday as well, which is fantastic. So we'll have a little drink afterwards. But tell us how you got involved in rugby in the first place. What was your journey?
I got introduced to rugby when I went to primary school.
Wow.
I was 11 years old, and someone of the local rugby club, his name is Christian Lill. He is also became later the under 18s national coach, and he went to our class in school and introduced us to rugby. He had like a bag of a lot of balls with him and said something about rugby, and I had no clue what he was talking about and never heard of this sport before.
Mm-hmm.
But our whole class went to training, and another girl and me, we stayed and played for many years together with the boys then. She quit rugby a few years ago because of a big injury, but so that was me when I was 11 years old, and at my local rugby club, O3 Berlin is the name, in Berlin Weißensee, and I still played for this club. It's like 17 years anniversary now.
Wow, that's amazing. So you started there and you're still there. That's incredible. And did you start? What was the game like then? And were there lots of people who wanted to play, or were you just like a small group?
This club is still has a history back to the times when in Germany we had like two parts of Germany. So it's a very traditional club. I think it exists now actually for 50 years. It changed the name or became more independent in 2003. That's why our name is Rugby Club O3 Berlin. And this is the year when I joined, 2003. And very, very family club. A lot of parents nowadays, they're also coaching their little kids, and we have big summer fests and a lot support for the kids always. And I think this is what I loved when I was a kid as well, because they did so much for us. We went to training camps as little kids in our school holidays, and we did like little trips on the weekend when we went to like outside of Berlin in like a big camp, and we all played rugby together and did like things we love to do as a kids, go bathing and things like that. So that was go swimming and stuff like that. So and it was funny because until I was 16, 17, I played together with the boys because there are not enough girls playing rugby in Germany. So that was a good school for me, I think. So it was a hard way of learning rugby to play with boys, but that was good, I think.
Good training, yeah. So how have things changed in the last few years? Are you seeing more girls involved in rugby? I mean, you started at a very early age, but are you seeing more interest?
I think so, definitely. Like when I like lived away for a little bit, just came back to Berlin, and I now went to the club. And on a Tuesday and on a Thursday, when there's a big training day, there were 100 kids at the club, and they were like all training in the different groups. And I've never seen so many kids playing rugby at the club. So that is actually such an improvement that so many more kids now play rugby. This is the example I have here in Berlin. And I'm not like, I think every club has their own little thing going on with these kind of like some clubs have like a lot of kids, some they more focus on the men women teams in the adult ages, but like I can just say from my point of view in Berlin now, this is like a really good improvement here to see that there are a lot of kids. And I know that the club is doing a lot in that, because they go to the schools and in the local areas and introduce rugby like they did it to me 2003, introduce little kids to rugby, because it's still not very popular in Germany. So you really have to go to the schools. You have to tell them what that is and bring them to the rugby training. But this is working really well here. And I think the numbers in Germany in general, they increased in the last couple of sports. We're still such a little sport in Germany. And yeah, and I don't see the improvement I wish I would see, I think.
But
there's still, like, a lot of room.
But it's been a difficult time for everybody, hasn't it? So do you think part of that is dealing with coronavirus and the impact from that?
I'm not sure. I think the rugby clubs, I hope they don't struggle too much. We have to get back to rugby as soon as possible, because if we have a big break and nobody can play, I think it's very frustrating, especially for the kids, because this is what they want to do. They want to go, they have their competition on the weekends. They want to go on those training camps in their summer holidays. And
Yes.
if this is not possible, I think the kids, they struggle more than maybe us adults. We understand the situation a little bit better. So but yeah, they started to do some things for the kids as well in the last couple of days, weeks. The under 16 boys, they had a training week, and a game last weekend with all the hygiene rules, and it worked really well. So I think that was a little test, and now we can see if we can do something for the other kids as well.
It's more important now than ever, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everyone really has to maybe use this time. There's no competition, but maybe use this time we have now to recruit more kids into the rugby, into the club, and entertain them somehow with other things, even if it's not like a big tournament or something. Let's do something on the weekend still. Keep the kids at the club, and I mean, it's like we just now have a big time to train the basics, to go out to the pitch, do some kicking, do some passing. We can still do that. We just have to be patient until we proper can play again.
I'm interested in how rugby is set up in Germany in terms of the different leagues, etc. But before we get to that, I'm sure Tom will have related questions to that. So Tom, why don't you join in?
Viv, we met recently, you and I, and we interviewed Anne-Marie Cortas a few weeks ago on Rugby Uncovered. What is the key to persuading kids, I guess, of a young age, of sort of 7-year-olds, to play rugby rather than football?
I think what is the difference between rugby and other sport is that it's such a fair and still very competitive sport. So what I learned from rugby is it doesn't matter. Like I say that so often, and sometimes, and for me it sounds so clear, but I think a lot of people in Germany don't understand that yet. But if you're a tall little boy or a big little boy, if you're a bit stronger, or if you're very thin and skinny, you will find your place in rugby. And I think that never changed it in the last couple of years. And this is what I saw on the last weekend as well, when the under 16 played. It's such a crazy group of people. Every kid, everyone looks so different, but they're all there together on the pitch, and they play together the sport they love. And I think that is what I've always seen in rugby more than I did in other sports. And that's why I think, for me, I mean, we talk here about rugby, that's why we love the sport. And I think that's the main difference. And I hope my kids one day in the future also will love the sport as I do. And
if I could refer to Germany as an emerging market, I mean that in the best possible sense, because you're starting from scratch in a way. But what's interesting for us is that the difference between 15s and 7s is much less pronounced in a country like Germany. It's rugby. It doesn't really matter in the end whether it's 15 or 7, and that's fascinating for us in countries where the game is emerging very, very fast.
I think what we took out of, especially of the sevens game, is you don't need many players to play it. And in a country where rugby isn't big and you don't have a lot of players, it's good that we have an option to only have 7 girls to play a tournament. And I think that's why it's actually the reason why sevens is so big in Germany, because most of the big cities in Germany, they have a club, but they have only a couple of girls. They all struggle to have a 15 side. So what they can do is they can play sevens, because it only needs 7, it only needs 12 players at the tournament. And that's why this is so big. And I think this is what we really use, and this is what is really good for the rugby in Germany, that that we have the sevens option. It's huge here. I mean, we have 5 divisions, and in each division they play between 8 and 12 teams, and then the best 3 or 4 teams of the division, they meet then in the German championship. And because you asked earlier, Paul, how the rugby developed in Germany, I can definitely say that the level in sevens in the women's rugby, it became so much better. It's so much more competitive.
Wow.
It's an absolutely amazing level of women's rugby when you watch the German championship. Of course, this is only maybe this high level. You can see it on the German championship when the best teams are there, but that level absolutely became so much better.
Given what you've said, and given that the main desire on the part of our friends in Dublin is to make this a truly global game, I see sevens as the future long term. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, maybe because exactly of that reason, it's so much easy to set up a sevens team. And I think that's why probably sevens became an Olympic sport again. It's the best thing in the world to go to the stadium, to sit there and to watch like 12, 16 nations play against each other. And this is exactly what you can do on a lower level, or even in like a country in Germany. You have a German championship with 12, 16 teams, and you can watch that for 2 days, and that's just great. I love sevens. I think that's my favorite option as well in rugby. I play that. I love to play sevens. But on the other side, I know that the men team in Germany, they love to play 15s. They love to play that hard contact game. And I think in a country like Germany, it is sometimes difficult that the men team, they set up their 15s team, and then we don't have enough players. So if we have a good player in 15s, they maybe take them out to bring them to the sevens program, and then the 15th team lacking again in good players. So also here we need in general, that means we need in general more players, 15s, sevens, and everybody can choose what they prefer. But I think I definitely agree that sevens is probably the sport which is very attractive to people who watch that. It's easier to understand, and it definitely probably the sport which can increase and can make rugby bigger worldwide.
Sure. And let's stick with 15s for the moment, because it is still the main international sport of the 2 formats. Are there any laws that you think would improve the game by change over the next few months, maybe years? What individual law changes do you think could make it better, safer, whatever?
Good question. And I'm absolutely impressed how they changed the law in a couple of years, because I've watched there's so much old rugby games were on TV during the whole Corona time. So I watched rugby games from the 2003 World Cup of the men. And it was crazy how that game looked like, so different to what we have today. And I thought, I'm so happy to change a couple of rules, because that game doesn't look safe. It looks crazy how quick they go into the scrum, and it looks absolutely not safe. And I was like, there are injuries happening. It's crazy. So it's great that the rules, this is what I can say, is that they changed the rules to make it more attractive, to make it more safe. At the moment, I can't think of something I would love to see what they should change that they make rugby better. But as far as I can say is that I'm happy how it changed in the last years. So because it's worlds different how it looks, and I feel safe right now to play. What I always say to our girls at the team is rugby is a contact sport. It is silly not to train also maybe outside of the rugby training, do some extra sessions, do some fitness sessions, some gym and strength and conditioning training. It is a contact sport, and this is the only way how we can avoid of getting injuries.
Viv, thanks so much. Sorry to interrupt. It's been a pleasure for me. Thank you so much. We'll meet again, I hope, because you're between Berlin and London. But thanks ever so much.
Viv, just before you go, what does a normal week look like? I mean, thank you for obviously talking on your holiday. So we're very grateful to have you during your holiday time. But when you're at work and managing your schedule with rugby and work, what does that look like in a normal season and a normal week?
My schedule between work and rugby, you mean?
Yes. How do you fit? What do you have to juggle between the two?
It is quite busy, to be fair, because as I said, I take my training very serious, and also during the Corona time now we don't have any competition, but my body needs to train. This is what I did my whole life basically. Since I'm 18, I played for the national team, so I'm used to a lot of training. So, but work is.
How much do you train a week, for example? How many times do you train?
I definitely train 6 days a week.
6 days a week? For how many hours?
So we have rugby training, which is 2 hours, but apart from that, I have an hour training on the other days.
Okay. And what sort of things do you do?
I do sprint training, strength and conditioning training. Right now it was more body weight stuff because I couldn't go to the gym in the last couple of weeks, but I loved to go to the gym, and I always thought I was never a big fan of burpees, and
I'm not a fan of burpees either. They're pretty hard.
Yeah, exactly. But this is that was the only thing I could do in the whole Corona time.
Yeah.
And I kind of got so used to that training, and I'm right now I'm so fit as I haven't been in the last years, really.
Wow.
Because it was so easy to just do that outside in any garden, any park. You don't need to go to the gym. It was kind of easier to train. So I actually do that quite often. So I go out, I go to the park, I do like a circuit with press ups, burpees, squats, things like that. I do longer runs than like longer jogs for an hour. But yeah, I try to have like a good mix of all these kind of things next to the rugby training.
Great. And anyone else in your family involved with rugby?
No, not at all. I like a football crazy family. They watch the German Bundesliga.
Well, edit that bit out. We're not putting that bit in.
Yes. My mom is a big fan of rugby now, and of the club especially. So she comes to the tournaments. But no one is involved in rugby.
Wow.
No,
so you're trailblazing. Because one of the questions that Tom asked you about, what do we need to see to get more people involved in rugby? And it's actually people like you showing women, showing everybody that they can play. And also, as you also said, it doesn't matter what body type you are, there's a place for you in rugby. And that's something that's obviously very different to lots of other sports. You tend to train and hone into a very polarized type of body type. But with rugby, you can have a variation which is more inclusive. And we're seeing more diversity as well, which is great. But we need more women to see people like you playing and enjoying the sport. And in that regard, how would people get in contact with you or follow your progress? Where are you on social media?
I do a lot of Facebook and Instagram. So my name is rugby_Vivian. No, the other way around. Vivian_rugby. This is where you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, and Vivian Bahlmann on Facebook. Yeah, and I try to post a lot of stuff about my training and about competitions when we have them, to show what we in Germany do over here. And yeah, feel free to contact me.
Brilliant
Tell
stuff.
me any questions about training and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely excellent. Thank you so much. And we'll put links to all of those social media links in the podcast. Just a big thank you for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we hope to have you back. And especially when the season starts, it'd be great to hear about your progress throughout the season.
Yes, it was great to talk to you. Great to meet you here online. And again, you, Tom, and hopefully talk to you again soon. When the season hopefully starts, we can actually talk about some games.
Brilliant.
Sure.
Brilliant
Thanks.
stuff.
Thanks a lot, Bev. Thanks. All the best.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Have a nice day.
Stay safe. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
See you.